All right, let's dive into something really important today on the deep dive. We're looking closely at artificial intelligence in education. Specifically, how prepared are our teachers for this fast-moving field? And, what challenges might students face because of it?
Exactly. And for you, someone who clearly cares about kids getting a relevant and thorough education, this rapid AI development, well, it raises some big questions. Are educators actually ready? What does this all mean for the next generation?
We've gathered quite a bit of material for this deep dive. We're looking at insights from places like Internet Matters, Wikipedia on AI literacy, eSchool News, and others. We've also got policy ideas from MIT Raise, ethical points from the European School Education Platform, and even a course from Grow with Google.
And that conversation from the Ezra Klein show really frames the problem well. So the core questions we're trying to tackle are, what's the current level of AI understanding and training for teachers? How fast can schools realistically adapt their curricula and teaching methods? And critically, what's the potential impact on students in the meantime?
Okay, so first things first. Let's try to pin down what we mean by AI literacy. Wikipedia gives a pretty broad definition, doesn't it? It's not just knowing about AI.
No, it's knowing and understanding it, yes, but also using and applying it and evaluating it, creating it, understanding the ethics.
Yeah.
It's quite comprehensive. Enabling AI responsibly is part of it, too.
That seems to align with how Internet Matters describes AI itself. They frame it as computer science building intelligent machines for human-like tasks, using lots of different info sources.
And they specifically mention those generative AI tools we hear so much about, like ChatGPT, Dall-E, Google Gemini, the things students and teachers are actually starting to bump into pretty regularly.
Which brings us to a fundamental point. If AI can now do things like write essays or pass exams, tasks that were, core parts of school, what should students actually be learning?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? Rebecca Winthrop on the Ezra Klein show, she voiced serious concern about this. She feels the basic purpose of education is kind of shaken by what AI can do now.
And so it forces a rethink. Beyond just transmitting knowledge, maybe?
Precisely. It suggests we need to seriously reconsider the fundamental goals. What skills, what understanding truly matters if basic information recall or even essay generation can be automated.
It's interesting then that Grow with Google has launched that online course specifically for educators on AI skills, offering professional development credit for it. Well, that signals a need, doesn't it?
It definitely signals a recognition of the gap. I mean, it's a positive step, certainly, but it also kind of highlights that maybe the broader, more systemic training isn't quite there yet for most teachers.
Is that what MIT Raise is getting at? They seem to be pushing for more formal support.
Yes, exactly. They explicitly call for federal funding for teacher training in AI literacy. And they also stress updating digital literacy standards to actually include AI. It suggests consensus that, well, current preparation probably isn't enough for what's coming.
Which naturally leads to the question of speed. How quickly can schools realistically adapt? The Ezra Klein show mentioned that initial just ban it reaction some schools had toward generative AI.
Right, but the feeling was that's not really a long-term solution. As Winthrop put it, kids will find a way. You can't just block it out. It really highlights the difficulty, trying to hold back technological shifts.
So banning doesn't work. The underlying way teaching and learning happens needs to change.
That seems to be the argument. Generative AI really forces the issue. Winthrop did add, though, that while schools need to adapt quickly, we also need to think about regulating AI use by young people, particularly tools not designed with education in mind.
The Center for Curriculum Redesign offers a maybe helpful perspective on the timing here. They suggest focusing on adapting to the AI we have now, this capable phase, rather than getting too caught up in, say, future superintelligence fears.
That makes sense. It's about practical adjustments for the current reality. And that ties into the argument from Education for the Age of AI against the whole why learn anything if AI knows it all idea.
Right. They drew a parallel to search engines, didn't they?
Exactly. Just because information is easy to find doesn't mean learning is obsolete. If anything, the skill of evaluating that information, knowing if it's relevant, judging its credibility, that becomes even more critical. So the focus shifts, perhaps, to those higher order thinking skills.
Okay, so let's consider the potential impact on students right now. Given that many teachers might still be getting up to speed and the technology is moving so fast, what are the immediate concerns?
Well, one concern raised on the Ezra Klein show was about students potentially using AI as a shortcut, getting it to do the assignment for them instead of learning the process.
And if that happens, they miss out on developing those core skills, like logical thinking, structuring an argument, the actual mechanics of writing.
That's the fear. Winthrop drew a useful distinction, I think, between students using AI thoughtfully maybe for brainstorming, research, or editing, versus those just using it to bypass the learning itself. The real danger is not developing those foundational cognitive abilities.
And there's a risk it could make existing problems worse, right? Like student disengagement.
Potentially, yes. If AI isn't integrated carefully, if learning just becomes about feeding prompts to an AI, you could see students becoming more passive, less invested in the actual learning process.
Plus, eSchool News brought up the misinformation angle. AI makes it so easy now to generate plausible sounding but false information. Students need really strong critical thinking skills more than ever just to navigate that.
Absolutely. Being able to discern credible sources from, well, sophisticated junk is becoming a fundamental literacy skill in this environment.
It's probably helpful to look at some concrete examples of how AI is being used. Those digital defined case studies offer some interesting glimpses, don't they?
They do. We're seeing AI applied for personalized learning paths, both in K-12 schools like Newtown High School and universities like Sydney. The idea is tailoring content and pace to individual student needs.
And it's not just about personalized content, is it? Some examples seem focused on accessibility and support.
That's right. The University of Alicante using AI for visually impaired students, or the Harris Federation using it to support students from diverse language backgrounds by, say, adapting texts or providing real-time translation help. These show the potential for making education more inclusive.
Then there are efforts to use AI to help teachers directly, like reducing workload.
Yes, Oak National Academy is exploring AI for helping with lesson planning, for instance. And some other interesting, maybe more experimental uses, like that school in China monitoring student focus, or another using AI for personalized fitness plans.
And in higher education, the uses seem quite varied too. Personalized learning again, but also things like early risk detection at Ivy Tech and MIT, trying to identify struggling students earlier.
And chatbots for engagement at the University of Edinburgh, streamlining admin at the National University of Singapore, even exploring AI for mental health support, like at the University of Toronto.
These examples are encouraging in many ways, showing the potential benefits, but they also really underline the need for careful implementation, don't they?
Definitely. It's not just about plugging in the technology. You have to constantly think about the ethics, privacy, potential bias in the algorithms. And there needs to be strong collaboration between the educators on the ground and the tech developers. Responsible and effective use is key.
Which brings us back to policy. MIT Raise seems to think more federal involvement is needed across the board.
Yes, they advocate for more government activity in several areas. Funding research on AI's impact in education, developing standards for these tools, helping schools figure out what to buy, providing clear guidance, and generally promoting AI literacy for everyone involved, students, teachers, administrators.
And they had a specific recommendation about auditing AI systems used in schools, right?
They did. A really important one, I think. They recommend that AI systems used in K-12 should be audited by independent third parties, basically checking them for accuracy, fairness, and how well they protect student privacy, drawing a parallel to existing child online privacy laws like COPPA.
So when we pull all of this together, the definition of AI literacy, the current state of teacher readiness, the pace of change, the student impact, the current uses, the ethical and policy needs, it really pushes us to think about how education itself might need to fundamentally evolve.
The Ezra Klein Show discussed that optimistic vision of AI tutors providing personalized learning for every child. But Winthrop offered a really important caution there.
About not losing the human element.
Exactly. About not replacing human interaction, the social learning, the collaboration, all those vital things that happen in the classroom with other people.
She suggested AI might be better used supporting the teacher rather than directly teaching the student in every case.
Yes, that was her perspective. Thinking of AI more as a powerful tool for educators, an assistant maybe, rather than a replacement.
Yeah.
That feels like a potentially more grounded approach for now.
And the Center for Curriculum Redesign argues for a pretty comprehensive overhaul, focusing on versatility and those core human qualities, motivation, identity, agency, purpose.
They really advocate for redesigning disciplines, embedding more interdisciplinary thinking, preparing students for a future where adaptability and those human-centric skills are paramount. It's a big picture adaptation they're calling for.
So wrapping this up, it feels like the key takeaways are pretty stark. We have what seems like a significant gap in widespread AI training for teachers right now.
Yes, coupled with the potentially slow pace at which large educational systems can adapt to such a rapid technological shift.
In the middle of that are the students facing both immediate risks like missing out on skill development and maybe some opportunities if AI is used well.
Which leaves us with a really critical question, maybe the critical question. How long is it actually going to take for schools to get their teachers truly equipped and their curricula properly updated for this AI reality?
And maybe more urgently, how many students right now and in the coming few years might miss out on essential parts of their education during this transition period? That's a sobering thought.
It really is. It forces us to think about what can be done now. Given AI's speed, what immediate, maybe more agile approaches could support teachers and students? And what role should parents be playing here in advocating for this education, perhaps even supplementing it to ensure their kids aren't left behind?